Welcome to the Niche Pursuits Podcast. Are you ready to discover some niche business ideas that actually work? Well, it's time for a motivational kick to jumpstart your next big idea. Here's your host, Spencer Haas.
Hey everyone, it's Spencer here with nichepursuits.com, and welcome to another episode of the Niche Pursuits Podcast. This is actually episode 32. And it's been several weeks in a row now where I've recorded a podcast consecutively. So congrats to me and you, Perrin.
Yeah. Maybe we should tell people what the results have been, because I was pretty shocked.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. Why not? Perrin and I were talking about the stats earlier. We didn't discuss whether we were going to share this on the podcast, but why not?
Yeah.
So... yeah, before I started recording a weekly podcast, I had gone through a little bit of a dry spell where I would record maybe one every other month or something. And typically on an off day, when I hadn't released a podcast, I was getting on average around 200 or so lists. When I would release a podcast, I'd always get, 1,000 or 2,000 or so listeners. But on the off days, between 200, 250, sometimes less, sometimes a little more. But now, actually, I'm consecutively getting around 400 to 500 downloads a day. Mm-hmm. So about double what I was doing before. Some days it's 600 or 700. Then, of course, the day I release a podcast, it has a nice spike up to 1,200 or a little bit more. So the podcast appears to be generating some interest, and more people are listening in. So that's good news.
Yeah, it's growing. I'm expecting to get a postcard from Cliff Ravenscraft just saying, "I told you so," like any day now.
I know. Man, good old Cliff. He kicked me in the butt to get going and doing this, so I appreciate that. But yeah, if he's still listening, thanks a lot, Cliff. Appreciate it.
Yeah, just, being consistent, I guess, is really paying off.
Yep, absolutely. I'm just taking a drink of my mug root beer, I believe is what I got in here. So
nice.
That's a small sponsorship spot for mug. Everybody drink mug root beer. I love it. And thank you to my wife for picking that up for me so I can gain a couple extra pounds.
Yeah, there you go.
So, all right, let's actually dive into the podcast topic here. So today we're going to talk about two sites of mine that I bought. This is actually going to be a monthly income report. I shared, I think it was 3 podcast episodes ago where I did the previous income report for April, and now I'm going to do the income report for May. But in particular, I'm questioning whether or not I should keep one of those websites. Mm-hmm. It's earning some money, as I'll share here. But I'm starting to wonder what the potential is of it and whether I should just get rid of it, sell it, and cash in.
Yeah.
So we will dive into the numbers as we go. But again, to remind everybody, back in January of this year, I bought 2 websites, primarily the purpose being for me to learn, to get my hands dirty, if you will, dig in, figure out how to buy a website, and understand the process of growing the traffic and the earnings. So really, it's a big experiment. Yes, I want to make money with it. That's the end goal for anything, of course, is to be profitable. But maybe even more than profits, I'm concerned with learning the process so I can get better for the next time that I go out and buy a bigger website and do that. So let's just dive into the numbers, unless you have anything you want to share before we get started there, Perrin.
No, let's do it.
Okay. So first, I purchased an AdSense niche site where mostly it's earning money through Google AdSense. And I bought this site for $5,000, just so everybody knows that as well, back in January of this year. And I shared in my last income report that the traffic was pretty steady at around 200 to 230 visitors a day. Now, an interesting thing happened about midway through the month. It had a nice jump in rankings in Google, and the traffic overall increased. So really good news for the AdSense niche site. And I don't know whether the rank increase was due to the links that we had been building in previous weeks or a Google algorithm update. It's possible that it coincided with the most recent Panda 4.0 update, or just a combination, thereof, the links and the Panda update. I don't know exactly what it is. I'm just happy with the result. So it went from that, around 230 visitors a day to now 300 to 340 visitors a day, which is really quite huge, almost 100 visitors a day increase, a nice 33% traffic increase. So very happy with that. And I noticed an increase in daily earnings as well that coincided with that traffic increase. So the last week and a half of the month really carried the whole month in a way, because I was slightly below what I was going to do in April, I believe, up through about the 17th or 18th, and then the last week or two really picked up in earnings. And so overall, the site increased in earnings by just a little bit, but seeing an increase at all is great. It increased by $33.75. So it went from earning, let's see here, $238.05 in April, and then in May it earned $271.80. So a nice jump there. And on the most recent blog post that I did, I had a bunch of nice charts and graphs to make everything look pretty, but overall the traffic increased by almost 3,000 visitors during the month of May. So great news. I'm happy with that site. I'm going to keep adding more content because of that rank increase and Google love, if you will, that we're seeing. We're going to add some more content and hope to carry that on for June.
Yeah.
So any other input on that site? Any other interesting thoughts from your perspective, or anything that I missed maybe on our plan going forward, Perrin?
Just that it really ties in well with the exact strategy that we were talking about in our last blog post, in our last podcast, which is that, we have seen the rankings jump and the earnings jump, and we're getting more traffic. And so after we saw that was kind of the time when we felt like making the decision to invest more in the site was kind of a good call. And I think, as we're going to see later, we had to do the opposite with the other one.
Good point. Really, it's all about picking your winners and losers. And this site is presenting itself as having more potential. I mean, it's just pretty easy to see when you look at the charts of earnings and traffic. You can see that there's more potential there. It's increasing. We're going to put some more muscle power behind it. And yes, exactly. On the next site, we may not be doing that. And we'll share those numbers now. So the next site was a Pinterest site. Oh, you know what? Actually, before I do move on, because I think I shared this on the last podcast or the last income report, just the overall earnings of the AdSense site. So I spent, like I said, $5,000 to buy the site. It's now made a total of $1,163.48 since I purchased it. So I still haven't made all my money back, but it's only been, roughly 4 full months. And also, as we discussed, if I decided to sell the site right now, I could still get back my initial investment plus a little bit on top, I believe.
Yeah, and I know you said that you didn't know what really caused that jump, but I guess if you were to guess, what do you think it would be? So, for anybody who didn't listen to the last podcast or didn't read the last blog post, we didn't do too much to the site. We added, half a dozen links or so and maybe a couple articles. So that there's something going on with that 100 person per day increase. So if you were going to guess, what would you think it would be?
It does seem to coincide with the most recent Panda 4.0 update. It was right around the same date. So my guess is that that was a big reason for it.
Yeah.
Just that, there's a lot of factors that go into that, but basically that there was a Google update and Google saw our site as quality. And Google seeing our site as quality is reliant on the fact that we had added some quality articles and built some quality links. So I think all of that helped, but just with that new update, we saw it all kind of in one day. It just jumped.
Yeah.
So that's my best guess.
Yeah.
So the Pinterest site here, all of the traffic for this site primarily coming from Pinterest. We're posting curated content on the site, and then we're pinning the images over to Pinterest, and we have quite a few followers there that I actually, when I bought the site, I got the Pinterest account, and I got the Facebook account that were all established and had followers and everything. So that's why we're still able to pin images and immediately have people come and check out the site because of that. And this site, I spent $2,100 in January for it, and I ran down sort of all the issues I think last time, that it had been banned from Google AdSense and I wasn't able to get reinstated. Most of the content is copied or curated, and so Google isn't ranking any of that in their search engine. So traditional SEO is kind of out the door in a way, because we've tried to add at least one original article and Google isn't ranking it anywhere. We're not getting any traffic, and so I believe that the site just is not going to do well with original content and with traditional SEO.
Yeah. So
for those reasons, I've been using media.net and infolinks to monetize the site. But the strategy for this site, as we discussed in the last income report, is to see if we could increase the earnings in other ways, particularly using the email list that we had been building.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found an offer, and an affiliate offer, somewhere I could just email my list, send them over to the sales page, and hopefully generate some commissions that way. Well, I sent out 2 broadcast emails to my list, which has approximately 160 visitors, or 160 email subscribers. And I shared the stats of those email broadcasts in my blog post here, and actually pretty good open rates and click-through rates for the amount of visitors. 160 people, it's not a ton of people, so I wasn't expecting a lot, but I was hoping for a sale or two. But the emails did get 45 opens on the first one and then 59 opens on the second one, which, if you do the math, based on how many people were on the list at the time, is somewhere between like 40 and 50%, which is really good. If I'm doing, actually, no, a little lower than that, around 30 to 40%.
But really strong.
But yeah, still really, really strong. Got a lot of clicks. Had around 10% click-through rate that actually went to the sales page, but unfortunately, no sales.
Yeah.
Didn't get any sales. So wasn't seeing a lot of action there. So again, all the earnings for the site came directly just from media.net and infolinks. So here's the numbers, and then I want to go into what my thoughts are moving forward with this site. In April, for comparison, the site earned $245.85. In May, it was $244.51. So down just over $1. So pretty flat for the month. I'm not going to complain again, because I did only spend $2,100. And this site, over the lifespan that I've owned it, has now earned a total of $1,010.64. So I've already made back half of my investment. If I hold on to it for a few more months, I'm going to make all of that back all on its own. But my real question that we've discussed is what's the potential of this site? What can I really do with this site to make it grow? Do I have a big winner on my hands? And when I look at that and think, honestly, I think the answer is no. At least for where my interest is right now, I have a lot of things going on with other sites that are either doing better or I believe have more potential. This one right now is reliant on Pinterest. Pinterest is way out of my expertise. The only Pinterest account that I have is the one for this website, and I only have it because it came with the website.
Yeah.
I don't log into Pinterest for my own use. It's just for this website.
Yeah.
So I don't have a lot of interest. It's outside of my expertise of SEO, building links, adding content that can get ranked in Google. That's where I've built all of my sites. They've been based on that strategy. This one's outside of that. There's nothing wrong with doing anything new, and I'm glad I've tried my hand at this, but it's not something that gets me jumping out of bed each morning hey, I want to build this site, I want to grow it. Even if I were to double the earnings of this site, is it really worth the effort that I would have to put into it?
Yeah, and I think this site is there's a case to be sold for this site, mostly because it's just not exciting to us, I don't think, for most of this site's life, it's just been supremely frustrating. Mostly because there were lots of technical issues that we had to spend time figuring it out. And also just like nothing seemed to work. And we're so green in the area of social media that a lot of times it just kind of felt like we were spinning our wheels. And even that could be cool and fun and a really great learning experience. And we did learn a lot of stuff from this site. But the quality of the content isn't enough to get me excited about like creating new stuff and building something that's really valuable to people, which is something that you and I both enjoy because it's all quote unquote curated content. So aside from just the raw data, there are a lot of other factors that make this site much less exciting than the other stuff that we have going on.
Right, and I agree that there's nothing wrong with social media, and I'm still interested in learning a little bit more, and that's great what the site has going on, but there's this whole other area of expertise that I have and that you have experience in of SEO, building links that we can bring to the table. And this site just is not doing well in that realm. Google isn't ranking the original content because it has so much other duplicate content on the site. And that's just a huge hurdle to overcome that, like I said, for the amount it's earning, if it was earning $2,000 a month instead of $240 a month, maybe it's worth the effort to see what we can do there. But where it's at now, I originally bought it as a learning experience. We've learned a ton. So I am strongly considering just selling the site, just getting rid of it, and focusing on something else that is more interesting or that has more potential. So
yeah, I think you make a really good point too, is that by buying a site that we can't do SEO on, we're kind of wasting both of our skills, which is it's not the most valuable use of the resources we have as far as the investment goes.
Yeah, really is. So whether or not I'm going to sell it, I don't know at this point. I'm just thinking about it, considering it. But the idea behind that is that I want to put my energy into other sites that I know are doing well and have more potential to grow. So if I were to sell it right now, it's making close to $250 a month. I'm sure that I could sell it for more than $2,100, which is what I bought it for. 10 times monthly earnings is even more than that. The top price range would be 20 times monthly earnings, which I don't think that I would be able to get for this site, but if I did, that is $5,000, which would be a great return. So probably the price range that I could potentially sell it for is somewhere around $3,000 to $4,000 is my guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. That would get back my initial investment that I could then apply somewhere else.
Yeah.
But the argument could also be made that this could just be a passive site, that I am happy with the $250 a month in earnings and just keep it and add it to my passive portfolio.
Yeah. Yeah, and why, if you chose not to do that, why wouldn't you do it?
If I chose not to sell the site,
yeah, I mean, what's the case for putting it in your portfolio versus the case for selling it, do you think? Just from where you're sitting.
there could be an argument to be made for recouping my initial investment just through the passive income for a few months.
Mm-hmm.
Just sort of getting that initial investment in the bag and then selling it. And then certainly the reason that people keep sites and allow them to just, if they truly are passive and just take that extra income is, where else are you going to get that kind of return on your investment where you can, there's no CD or mutual fund that you can put $2,000 into and get $250 each and every month out of.
Yeah.
That just doesn't exist.
Right.
So as an investment vehicle, you can't beat the returns.
Yeah.
So it really is great returns, but like anything with great returns, the risk involved is much, much greater than a CD or a mutual fund.
Yeah.
Pinterest could disappear, the traffic from Pinterest could disappear overnight, weird things could happen, and the income could be gone next month.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Do you trust the earnings from the site enough to keep it in your portfolio and just earn month after month? Or do you feel like you're not willing to take on that risk and sell it right now and pocket the money?
And that's probably, a point to be made in favor of selling the site is that sticking something with passive income in your portfolio might be easier if it's a site with a lot of integrity. And while this was a fun experience, I think you and I both know the site doesn't have a whole lot of integrity.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I agree. This isn't something that I would stake my reputation on or, try to build a career out of. It's been a fun experience to test out traffic from Pinterest and see what can be done with pinning a lot of images and getting that free traffic. And it's kind of cool, almost finding like a loophole in the system that you can do that, but it's not original content that people are going to come and want to read day in and day out. It's something that I can have a VA, post an article for, working for a few dollars an hour here and there to get the content up. It's not something that takes a lot of deep thought and it's not something I'm sitting down and writing content for on a regular basis.
Right.
So, that's basically the report. I don't know what I'm going to do. The one thing that I do know is that I'm not going to be putting a lot of effort into this Pinterest site.
Yeah.
One way or another. It's just something that either it's going to sit there and earn a little bit every month until I recoup my initial investment, or I may just sell it in the next month or two and be done with it and move on to something else.
Yeah. So what do people take away from this experience with the Pinterest site? Because our attitudes have kind of changed. Even a couple blog posts ago or a couple podcasts ago, we were talking about all the things that we might do to this site. So what is the takeaway from the evolution of our decision-making process, do you think?
Well, one of the things that we were really excited about was testing out an email list and emailing offers to that list. And we could still do that, but it's a lot of effort.
Yeah.
And I want to be putting effort and building a list based on a site that I feel good about, that I believe in and I know is going to be there long term.
Mhm.
So all of our strategies, I think, were solid, to be honest. Testing out social media, trying to generate and build an email list, and testing all the different ad layouts, and learning from all of that was a great experience. But at the end of the day, I guess the lesson learned is that if there's not a quality product behind what you're doing all of this for, the return's not going to be there, or at least for me, I'm not as excited, I'm not as interested. I want to believe in my work and feel good about my work. So just the underlying asset itself, I guess, is where my attitude has changed. When I take a good, hard, long look at it, it's not something that I'm going to share with my friends and say, hey, look what I did. I built this really awesome website. So I guess that's why my attitude has changed, is just there's not a huge future there. So the lesson learned is to try and invest in something that you truly believe is providing quality to the end user.
Yep.
And I've said that.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've said that for a long time. But I took a little bit riskier of an investment with this site because there was a few weird things about the site that I thought I could make a quick return.
Yep.
And those just haven't panned out. Not being able to get approved to Google AdSense, not really being able to monetize this email list, and not increasing the traffic just through various means that we tried through SEO and other things. So a lot of the risks that I took haven't panned out to the upside.
Yeah. And we've passed on sites since then for similar reasons, like the one site that was using the script to bring in all of their reviews.
Right. No, that's a good point. Yep. We were looking pretty seriously at buying a site off of Flippa that was doing very well. I think it was making, I don't remember what it was, $1,500 or $1,800 a month with Amazon Associates, but most of it was using an automated script to pull in different products and feeds from Amazon, and there wasn't a lot of original content. So that could have been a similar trap that we got caught into. But I guess I'll share this little tidbit, is that I actually did buy a brand new site. It closed, just this week, actually. I finally released the escrow funds. But it was a much bigger purchase. I guess I'm not going to share the dollar figure or anything, but it's a site earning much, much more.
Yeah.
Than $250 a month. It does very well, but it has that quality that the Pinterest site doesn't have, for example. It has original content, all written firsthand by somebody that knew what they were doing. There's no spammy link building. Google loves the site. It's ranking number 1 or number 2 for lots of keywords, plus tons of long tail keywords. It does well in Google AdSense and Amazon. So all areas that I have lots of experience in, I'm an expert at, and I feel like I can take it to the next level. But it's already doing very, very well. And I have to say I got a really good deal on it.
You did.
I was able to negotiate a really good price that even if it doesn't increase in earnings at all, I should be able to recoup my investment within 6 to 8 months.
Yeah, and we've been pretty fortunate on that site because as you were buying it, it started earning more money.
Yeah, I don't know what it is because I didn't do anything different and the traffic really hasn't changed since I bought it. But the original seller, he gave me all the screenshots and actually logged into his accounts. And so I could see what the site was earning in the previous month. But in the almost week now that it's been in my accounts, it's earning, it will do maybe almost $500 more this month than it did last month.
Yeah. It's a really, really good site. And I think that's the key lesson for me because we talked about all the tactical stuff that we were learning in previous podcasts, but now in a much more big picture sense, the most important thing to me is that you should be buying sites that you specifically can add value to. And that's not to say that you shouldn't venture outside of your comfort zone or think outside the box. It's not to say that you shouldn't buy a Pinterest site or something. But I really do think if I'm going to be buying a site, hypothetically, I would want to make sure that whatever it is, I can add my SEO skills to it, because that's what I do and that's what I know, and that's where I can add dollars onto something that's already generating revenue. So I think that's a really important lesson, and something sort of the readers can probably take with them.
Yeah, I mean, we like to write original content that hopefully provides value, and the thought that putting out this great content and Google isn't even going to index or rank it well, that there's no possibility, that's just really a sad thought. And so the fact that I can do this now with the new site that I bought, and of course all the other sites that I have, that is a huge plus that this Pinterest site does not. So I'm certainly more excited about the site that I just bought and the other sites that I have that I can grow in that way that I have a lot of experience in.
Yeah. So, I feel like we went into the Pinterest site looking to learn a lot about social media and building email lists from scratch in a consumer market. And we learned some stuff, but I think what we really learned is how to be better buyers for sites.
Definitely. Yep. I agree. There's a whole lot more that goes into buying a site than just negotiating a good price. Because I think I negotiated a great price when I bought the Pinterest site, but I missed out on looking at some of the key factors, at least for my own business, that I should have been looking at. So I learned that. It's a good lesson. Hopefully people listening out there can use that as a takeaway for themselves as well. But overall, that's what we wanted to cover today on the podcast. Of course, there was lots of great blog comments that you can go over to nichepursuits.com and read the income report for May that you can see on the site right now, and read those blog comments if you will. Had some good discussion there also. But overall, that's about it. Perrin, did you have anything else that you wanted to leave people with?
No, I don't think so. I think I have to hold you accountable now for book recommendations and documentaries, because you've been leaving us hanging. So if you don't have any, I do.
Oh man, you might have to go. I am for some reason I'm having a tough time finishing the book that I'm reading, which I mentioned is I can't even remember the title of it now, but it's called Big Time College Football or something like that. Yeah. I'm almost done with it, so I can't give a full report on it. And I started another documentary, I believe it's called Last Call to the Oasis. It's about water shortages here in the U.S., but I'm only partway through, so I can't give a full report. So Perrin, maybe give us something that people can sink their teeth into here.
Yeah, so I guess I have a book recommendation which is absolutely unrelated to internet marketing, but then I have some good blog recommendations. So the book is Mistborn, which is a sci-fi novel by Brandon Sanderson. It's really a strong, fun, epic sci-fi series, but he also has lectures on writing sci-fi, so it was fun for me to read the whole trilogy and then watch him teaching sci-fi writing to kind of peek behind the curtains. And that kind of thing is always fun for me. But blog-wise, you pointed me to Steve Scott's site, and that's actually the email address, I think, right? Or
it is.
Email, but the URL. And Steve Scott is a guy who builds authority sites and supports them and gets them making revenue with lots of different things, but mostly Amazon books. which was eye-opening for me. It's something that I'd never thought about. I had always kind of assumed that Amazon eBooks market was just kind of bloated, but he's doing really, really well. I mean, he has sites making lots of money. So that's been a lot of fun to read. And I've also been reading more of E-commerce Fuel, which is a blog that has been on my radar for a long time. But as I start thinking about expanding A Penny Shaved, because it's doing pretty well still, and thinking about expanding some of our sites down the road, e-commerce is really attractive as far as what could be added to the equation. So E-commerce Fuel and Steve Scott's site have been really cool things to read to sort of broaden my internet marketing awareness.
Awesome. Yeah, good recommendations. You're just opening a whole can of worms. Both of those, all three of those topics, even the sci-fi novel, could be whole podcasts in and of themselves.
I think so.
But I'll just say that first, we're going to be looking for Perrin's first sci-fi novel coming out soon, hopefully. Right? Now that you've been watching those seminars and everything. So just announced on the podcast. That's fine.
Yeah, right.
And then Steve Scott's site. I've met Steve in person at a conference. Awesome guy, super down to earth. He's also a fellow marathon runner. And so, but he's very smart when it comes to Kindle ebook publishing. And Perrin and I have been talking about this quite a bit. We're excited and interested in possibly dabbling in that market. We'll see. I do have one site that I'm going to begin writing my first Kindle ebook here pretty soon. I don't know that that's something that I'll talk about here much on the podcast, but I just mentioned it now, so well, maybe it'll come up in the future too. And then it's Andrew over at E-commerce Fuel. I've read his site as well, and the whole selling of physical products and e-commerce avenue is very interesting, intriguing, that we've talked about could just boost a normal blog. Like you said, for A Penny Shaved, maybe just adding your own product or drop shipping or something in addition to all of the affiliate sales that you're doing, could be a nice way to just grow the overall reach of the site itself. So really interesting topics that we've talked a lot about amongst ourselves, and maybe we'll do more in-depth on a future podcast if we ever venture into those areas.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
For sure. So that's all we got for today, everybody. So we thank you very much for listening in to the Niche Pursuits podcast. As always, you can go over to nichepursuits.com, where you can read additional blog posts and dig in more, or contact me or Perrin or do any of that. And of course, if you enjoyed this podcast or any previous podcasts, you can leave a rating or review on iTunes by going to nichepursuits.com/iTunes. I would appreciate it very much. So thanks everybody for listening in. Have a great day.